Right, I'm going to start this talk backwards because for two reasons. Number one, some of you are going to run and going to get trains and see your loved ones, and it's quite hard to see at the back. So if you scan that QR code, you'll get the slide deck now at the beginning. I thought, see, up here for thinking. So yeah, grab the slide deck if your eyesight's not great. I had my eyes checked at the weekend. Fun, innit? Right, are we all done now? Still cameras up. Okay, I'm going to move on. Right, so let me do a little thingy there. And okay, let's talk about transitioning from DevOps to platform engineering. Thanks for hanging around. I appreciate you could be in the pub. I do understand that. I also understand that I'm the only thing between you and the pub. So let's get going. I asked Ethan, well, he asked me actually, when I would like this talk. Would I like it at the beginning of the day and the end of the day? I said, could I have it in the morning, please? So he put me on last. But he's from Barnsley, and you don't argue with people from Barnsley, even if it is the posh bit. Yeah, today I'm going to take you on a journey not to Barnsley, but this talk kind of belongs at the end of the day, I suppose, because it's probably reflective, if not retrospective, because we're going to go on a journey through time. Ooh. We're going to look at the things, the events, and significant moments that have happened in kind of DevOps and platform engineering over the last quarter of a century. Okay, so I'm going to go right back to 2001, the beginning, a very good place to start. Ethan, how old were you in 2001?
Not even a twinkle.
Has he gone? Who is he?
Went to the pub.
He's actually gone. He's in the pub. Yeah, okay. Hello, welcome to
got your slides off LinkedIn.
Welcome to my conference. I hope you're enjoying it. Right, okay, anyway, a bunch of white dudes went on a skiing holiday, and while they were there, they changed the way we build and run software, which isn't my idea of après-ski, but, you know, each to their own. So they basically came up with this, the Agile Manifesto, looking at a different way to building software as opposed to the heavy process-driven, spec-written kind of way we were doing it with Waterfall, and a more flexible, collaborative way to produce working software. Good idea, okay? So this is the start of the journey, the Agile movement. And over the next couple of years, Agile kind of takes, it takes off in a big way. The developers are sprinting, they're scrumming, they're minimal viable producting, and occasionally writing documentation. And we've got, by 2008, everybody's doing an Agile transformation, if you remember Agile transformations. And this is where our first DevOps moment happens in 2008. So I'm going to introduce to you now the main proponent of DevOps, Patrick Dubois. Patrick is a Belgian IT consultant. He's worked on all sorts of stuff from software to infrastructure. He's working on a migration of a data center for the Belgian government, and he's a little bit frustrated with the way in which they're not as flexible or adaptable as when he's been working with Agile teams. So he comes up with some ideas, and he goes to Agile Toronto in 2008 and gives a talk on Agile infrastructure. Was anybody there? Surprisingly, no. Anyway, while he's there, after giving his talk, there's then a kind of like open space, open discussion thing in the afternoon that happens at Agile conferences. And one of the topics is about Agile systems administration, proposed by a guy called Andrew Clay Schaefer. And Patrick goes, that sounds very similar to what I'm talking about. I'm going to go to that. So Patrick turns up and nobody else did, not even Andrew. He didn't think it would be popular. Fortunately, Patrick goes and finds Andrew in the hallway, has a discussion. Long story short, we get a Google group on Agile Systems Administration with Andrew, Patrick, and a bunch of other people who are interested in it. So this is around 2009. Okay, so there's conversations happening about this stuff. Then, Velocity happened, 2009. Paul Hammond, John Alspaugh gave a talk called 10, and I'll repeat that, 10 deploys a day at Flickr. Okay, at this point, that was revolutionary. Also seen as maverick. They got a load of stick for doing this talk. I mean, who wants to deploy 10 times a day? I mean, who wants to deploy 10 times a year? You know, why would we want to do that? And they were seen as like introducing a lot of risk. Meanwhile, in the Agile Systems Administration Google group, they love this stuff. They think this is brilliant, and they want, or they kind of lament that there's not more conferences about this. So somebody challenges Patrick to create one, so he does. And in 2009, in October, and this is the original post, Patrick Dubois announces the first DevOps days in Ghent in Belgium. Strange quirk of pronunciation, but it is his second language. It's a dream coming through for me. I don't know what that means. I'll ask Ethan if his dreams are coming through by running this conference later. Is he still not here? Where is he? Anyway, so anyway, this event happens. A bunch of people from the Agile Systems Administration group go to the conference, as well as some other people are interested. And today we have DevOps days, and therefore DevOps, hooray, DevOps is born. Then, DevOps starts making some traction. Grassroots movement though. Engineers, techies doing it, not really kind of management. And then in 2011, the consultants spotted it. And then it's boo, boo, boo from the front. And this is where the noise and confusion started, because the consultants spotted it, and then the vendors tried to sell us DevOps. And it's been fun ever since. Okay. So, in a not as important, but still significant for me, moment, in 2014, I went to Agile Yorkshire and I did the talk on what DevOps was. This is the original slide deck. Those of you that used to go to Leeds DevOps might recognise the format of it. But yeah, 11th of February 2014, I wander into Agile Yorkshire and I tell people what DevOps is because I care about it. So to be honest, I've not shut up about it since. Which is fine in this arena, but if you're in a broken cable car on a skiing holiday, it's not so much fun for everyone. But, well, you might find it fun. So this is like one of the first bits of public speaking I've done, and I want to get a bit of impact with this. So I decide to use a little bit of naughty language using a definition of DevOps, okay, to get a bit of impact. Now, apart from the language, giving a definition of DevOps at this point is completely stupid, because DevOps doesn't have a definition. DevOps is kind of like a problem statement, but it was always down to the community to come up with the answer, as well as the question, to work out how to solve this DevOps problem. So really what I'm giving here is a problem statement of DevOps, which is by someone called John Vincent, who goes under the handle of Lucis on Twitter, if you remember Twitter. He gives a quite ranty definition of DevOps, which I'm going to share with you now. I masked out the swear words. I know we've only had 2 today. I have been counting, but I'm not going to use them today. So this is a definition of DevOps. Strap yourselves in. DevOps means giving a stuff about your job enough not to pass the buck. DevOps means giving a stuff about your job enough to learn all of the parts and not your little world. I think he's talking about cross-functional T-shaped people at this point. I think that's what he means. But he continues. Developers need to understand infrastructure, operations people need to understand code, and people need to flipping work with each other and not just occupy space next to each other or on Zoom calls. I added the last bit to make it a little bit more relevant. But you get the idea. This is, and it's not helped by the fact this font is entirely uppercase that it sounds even more ranty, but that's just the font I use. But this is kind of already a problem we know about, despite the strongly worded post on Twitter. In 2006, Werner Vogels, the then CTO of Amazon, came up with "You build it, you run it." And there's an article published where he talks about that. And in it, he says the traditional model is that you take your software to the wall that separates development and operations, and you throw it over and then forget about it. Not at Amazon. You build it, you run it. This brings developers into contact with day-to-day operation of their software. The article continues. You've got the slides, you can follow the link and read it if you like. So, what does this look like in visual form? Now, this isn't quite the same diagram as I gave Agile Yorkshire. I've changed the meme on the left because it's better. But it's essentially the same diagram which has followed me around for the best part of 12 or 13 years in every DevOps talk I give. And what it's trying to depict here is on the left, we have our developers sprinting and scrumming and minimal viable product in and delivering features, okay? They're rewarded on that, they're incentivized on that. And then they go, I think we should release it. So they throw it over the wall to the ops team on the right. Now the ops team didn't know it was coming and are expected to drop everything and deploy it because the ops team looks after live. We don't let the devs on live. We wouldn't let them near prod, would we? That's ours. And of course they're charged with uptime and stability. They'll keep things up to date, they'll keep it patched, they'll monitor it, keep it robust, but they don't really like introducing changes because it introduces risk. So when a release comes along, it's not very well received. Now, of course, it wouldn't be too much of a problem if the dev and QA environments were exactly like live, but they never were they? Because they had newer versions of things and different libraries and different configurations and experiments. So the chances of that release working and being compatible with the live environment might be a little bit iffy. And of course, as we just heard from Brian, if you make a schema change to a database in dev that's got a couple of thousand rows, what happens if you make that change on a live database with a couple of million rows? Are you going to take it offline for a couple of hours while it does that? As you can imagine, this is not best well received by anyone. So I put the word feedback in quotes for irony underneath, and yeah, there's a feedback loop. So this is a pretty horrible place. We've got misaligned incentives, we've got teams not communicating, hence the wall. This is pretty bad. And does anybody still work here, by the way?
Does anybody know?
You're not admitting it. That's good. Okay. So what we've got here is we've got a terrible place to work. And of course, we can fix this by adding more process and approvals and manager approval, can't we? Let's add some tickets in there. That'll help. Yeah, no, let's not do that. But we've got a people problem. Horrible place to work. But it's actually a business problem, isn't it? Because in companies, they're typically divided up into finance, marketing, and operations, not to be confused with ops. They're down there. Now, operations divisions are the bit make and do for a company. So if we were making garden furniture, it would be the operations division that did the manufacturing or sourced it. In this example, we're not making garden furniture, forget about that. We're building a SaaS, okay. So the moving part and the bit we make and do is actually between the dev and the ops team. This software we make that gets released, consumed by our customers who give us money, hooray, but also give us feature requests and bug reports, boo. Either way, we have to fix this and release more software and then get it released. And of course, if this is where the constraint is, then that's a business problem. Now, of course, we heard earlier that we are the front of what do you say? The pioneers of knowledge work transformation with AI because it's happening to us first. Well, we've always thought things like that in IT, haven't we? Nobody has ever had any technical problems like we've had before because we're in tech and we're cutting edge. So there could be no business problems that can ever be solved by anything that any operations division has ever seen before. Yes, they can. So there's a school of running operations teams called operations management. You can go and do a degree in it. It is a thing. And they, of course, have been solving problems to do with constraint problems and blockages and optimizing things. Admittedly, maybe not with software, but there's stuff we can learn from this. There's theory of constraints, there's systems thinking. There's stuff we can borrow from manufacturing, like the Toyota production system. So Toyota production system, you might know more as lean. It's kind of like the westernized version of it, but it's still got all the Japanese principles there of optimizing for flow, improving quality, stopping mistakes happening, analyzing faults if they happen, and trying to analyze the root cause of things. These are all approaches which we can potentially use in DevOps because they're a thing from manufacturing and therefore operations management. And one of the first paradigms, I suppose, to do this was something called CAMS. Alex mentioned CALMS earlier. I'm going for the earlier version because I don't have lean metrics, I just have measurement. Okay, it's an acronym. Culture, automation, measurement and sharing. And I'm a little wary that now we just brush everything under like a we call everything culture and just say we're going to solve it and everything will be fine. It's not that easy. But in this paradigm, certainly culture is the most important thing we need to solve. So what we're essentially solving by changing the company culture is getting rid of the sweary wall problem, which is DevOps, okay? So get engineering teams working together, understanding what they do, create a shared responsibility, and have empathy for what they do. Get rid of that wall, get them talking, get them collaborating, get them working on the same stuff. If we can do that, then we can improve the culture of the organisation and we don't have this sweary wall problem, okay? Automation. We've got lots of automation in our world. We love tools, we love tech. Let's install some more, it'll solve all the problems. Maybe it won't. So if we have got a piece of software we made a change to, it goes in version control, doesn't it? That's what we do. And we put that through a pipeline. So we check it out, we build it, we then test it. If it passes the test, then we'll deploy it to an environment, we'll run some integration tests. If it works there, we might put it in another environment and then do some UAT. And then through whatever change control processes and quality gates we've got, we may eventually put it out to live for our users. We've got a pipeline to do that. Okay, that's not dissimilar to a production line or an assembly line in the manufacturing world. If we're making lawnmowers and we're putting them through the assembly line and it gets to a point where we can't put the wheels on because there's a fault with the thing we're putting the wheels on, then we can actually stop the production line, fix the problem and work out what caused it further up. What was the source of that problem? This is not dissimilar to breaking the build when we fail a test, and then going and working out why the test failed and fixing the thing that broke the test. Either way, we're stopping faulty product getting out in front of our users. We're pushing quality control further back and up the chain so that we're reducing it happening in the first place. This is good, we're improving quality of our software. Now, of course, we might want to make it go quicker as well. Getting quality is good, but making it move quicker is, of course, important. So let's measure it. Let's get some metrics. Let's identify where the constraints are, where the bottlenecks are. We can do that. We've, for years, been measuring the metrics and measurements on our infrastructure, be it on cloud or be it on-prem. We've been doing that. So we can also measure metrics for our software as well. Business metrics, how many transactions a second, how many events a second, how much money are we making? We can measure that stuff, and if we put that on dashboards, we can start doing trend analysis and seeing where improvements are. If we start sharing that with the organisation and looking at each other's dashboards and looking for where people are making improvements, maybe we could go and learn from other teams about how they've had an improvement, and vice versa. There's also the traditional learning mechanisms, mentoring, skills exchange, inner sourcing. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to create an organisation here that's learning, that's able to experiment, take risks, and be able to do it in a safe psychological environment where people aren't weaponized for these metrics as well. So that was the CAMS definition. So Damon Edwards and John Willis put those together in 2010, I think. Are they still relevant today? Let's find out. Okay. So, meanwhile, back to the timeline. Something else being covered today already. Next event on here, 2013, the State of DevOps report came out. And there's been one every year since, all the way up to today. It's a report about the state of DevOps, hence the name. It's produced by the DevOps Research and Assessment Team. You might know them as DORA, if you're familiar with DORA metrics. And what this report does is it has a kind of commentary on the current state and technologies and thoughts for each year of what's working in DevOps and the impact of DevOps. Where it's very different to a marketing campaign is it's got an academic research program that goes and surveys and interviews companies that are doing DevOps and looks at their metrics and tries to understand what actions have impacts, and they publish them in the report, thus giving DevOps credibility because this is academic research and analysis. So this is where we get things like the DORA metrics from. That's where they're from. Anybody measuring their DORA metrics? Anybody measuring 5 DORA metrics? Because there was a new one added this year called Rework, which is for AI, for how many times it screws that up. You might want to go and read the DORA report if you've not known about that one. Anyway, so that's the State of DevOps report. Super important and still around today, although it's focusing a bit more on AI. Okay, where are you going? Go back the other way. That's better. Okay, right. We've spoken a lot about books today, and books are important in the DevOps world. So I'm going to give a little bit more of an explanation on the fans' favourite, the Phoenix Project, and also the Unicorn Project. 6 years apart, but related. So let's go through what they are. So Phoenix Project is inspired by a book on theory of constraints called The Goal, which was written by Goldratt in the 80s. That's unusual in the sense that it's a textbook disguised as a novel, and so's the Phoenix Project. So in this story, there is an automotive parts manufacturing company that's trying to get their e-commerce site live, called the Phoenix Project. That's what they're trying to do. Spoiler, it's not going very well. And what it covers in the book is the experiences of the VP of Engineering, who's just been promoted, and his experiences of trying to actually get this project over the line. So all of his experiences are kind of like lessons from a textbook. Amongst them, the 3 ways. So this is by Gene Kim, who's the main, I think he's one of the authors. I think he's the main author of the Phoenix Project. And he's been talking about these for a number of years already, the 3 ways. So the 3 ways are basically trying to remove the sweary, wally DevOps problem we've seen by getting stuff through from dev to ops as quickly as possible, optimizing for that flow, and then getting the feedback loop where you get this conversation and get teams working together. And then the small loops at the bottom, which are teams becoming a learning organization by interacting and creating type feedback loops between the teams in the chain. Okay, we'll see these again in a minute. It talks about 4 types of work, and essentially it points out the obvious that tech debt is bad, or as it's known in the book, unplanned work. And really what you should be doing in anything you do in the other 3 types of work is having some focus on unplanned work, or it will swamp you, because nobody likes running from fire to fire, fixing the next fire. So let's not have fires by trying to put fires out in the first place. It also talks about visualizing work, which seems a little bit obvious now, but this was like put things in cards or in Jira, I suppose now. Actually collect your work up that you've got to do, size it, estimate it, prioritize it. If you can't see it or measure it, how do you know what you've got to do and what's important? That's kind of the point of the book. Unicorn Project 2019. It's set in an automotive parts manufacturing company. They're trying to get an e-commerce site live called the Phoenix Project. And this is the experiences of Maxine, a developer, who's just trying to do her job. She's new on the project, and it's her experience, again, it's a textbook disguised as a novel, her experiences of actually trying to just get stuff done, get her laptop set up through to actually trying to deploy code and write code. So it covers the 5... right button. It covers the 5 ideals. I'm not going to go into these. You can go and read the book. But essentially, it's a book about developer productivity or developer experience, depending upon how you want to look at it, about getting stuff done from a developer perspective. Okay, next couple of books. The SRE book and the DevOps handbook. Okay, so the SRE, or Site Reliability Engineering book, is, I suppose SRE is kind of like engineering for reliability. So having a focus on your customer's experience of using your products, okay. It's a collection of articles written by engineers at Google, and therefore, if you're engineering at the scale of Google, it's really useful. If you're not, then it's probably not. So unless you're working at Google, it's not that relevant. But there are things we can take from this. The things I kind of like are like reduce toil, so automate repeatable manual tasks while you're doing that by hand. Having ways to measure your services and their availability, service level indicators, objectives and agreements if people are using your stuff, and thinking about having those metrics. And I like the concept of error budgets. If you've got a system and it starts failing, then once this failure budget or error budget is used up, then it needs to go into maintenance mode, not feature mode. I think that's kind of cool. Now, you may or you may not like this book. I know some brilliant engineers that love this book. They think it's great. I know some brilliant engineers who hate this book with a passion. One of them said, I got so angry with it, I threw it across the room when I was halfway through it. So your mileage may vary on this book, but it's still an essential part of DevOps thinking. As is the DevOps Handbook, out in 2006, which seems a very long time after we thought about DevOps, but anyway, there it was. This is written by Gene Kim, who's one of the authors of the Phoenix Project, and he's also on the Dora team as well. Patrick Dubois, the creator of the first DevOps days and therefore DevOps. John Willis, who was one of the CAMS creators, and Jez Humble, who was one of the authors of the Continuous Delivery book and has done loads and loads of articles and stuff on DevOps. And in this book, what they do is they give a history of DevOps, not dissimilar to what I'm giving today, but they deep dive on the 3 ways. So there's kind of like a chunk of the book on each of the 3 ways. Lots of examples, lots of justification, lots of metrics, some would say too many. Your mileage may vary with that lot. And then it gives a chapter on explaining that DevOps was never just about Dev and Ops. It was about everything to do with it. So we're talking about security, compliance, change management, as well as testers, DBAs, all the other functions you would have in an organization. But it's not just about Dev and Ops, it's everything connected to it. Okay, and then something more local. I'm glad he's gone home because I can talk about his book without being completely intimidated. Has he gone?
He left.
Yeah, he's left, that's all right. It's rubbish. No, it's great. It is a brilliant, brilliant book. Okay, written by Matthew and Manuel. Manuel's an ace as well, by the way. And it talks about teams being the centre of everything and teams being like the logical unit that gets stuff done. So having teams and having purposes. So for example, stream-aligned teams, you've heard about this earlier. So this is teams that are essentially dev teams. And then we've got platform teams, which are essentially providing services to run those things that the stream-aligned teams are making. Talks about cognitive load as a way of splitting up the responsibilities of what those teams do, based on the theory that if you give a team too much to do, they're not going to be able to do it because they've got too much stuff in their heads to be able to do their job. So therefore you should look at how you can organise your team structures based on the amount of stuff they own and run or build, okay? It talks about intrinsic, extraneous, and germane. So intrinsic's like stuff you need to do your job, like writing code, knowing your frameworks, knowing your language, knowing your tools. Extraneous is the stuff we want rid of. So this is things we need to know that are complicated, which would rather another team did, like RBAC and stuff like that. And then germane is kind of like your domain knowledge, and you grow this over time as an engineer, and you start thinking about more of how things fit in the system rather than concentrating on little blocks of code and the purpose and the overall thing it does. And eventually you grow up and become an architect off the back of that. So that's cognitive load. But it also talks about interaction modes, and one of the things that's important to this is when we're talking about like platform teams, we're talking about teams which are enablers and not gatekeepers, I suppose. And the way in which the stream-aligned teams interact with those is super important. It's like we don't want to be creating tickets to get stuff done. We want to be using something as a service, calling an API, and designing that into the system or into the organization. Okay. Our last book, and I'm running really tight on time, so I took it really quickly. This is my favourite book, actually. I brought it with me. It's that much fun. It's kind of a management book. It's not really a techie book. It's called Platform Engineering. There's a picture of it there, and I can't hold it with my clicker, so I'm going to put it down. And what it's really done is it's given a real definition of what platform engineering is. We've had all these like weird kind of like conflicting opinions about what it is, but the book by Camille and Ian really kind of like lays down what it is and comes up with some real solid principles which, if we adopt them, I think make the difference between ops, DevOps, and platform engineering. I'll go into that now. First of all, we're talking about platform as a product. It's a product, it's got a lifespan, it's got features, it's got a roadmap. It's not just going to be done one day, it's going to be continually evolving. To do that, it talks about 4 pillars in the book. Products, so the service it provides, typically a golden path, so a set of common usable features which are kind of like just the de facto thing you would want a platform to do. So it makes, for your development teams, they're just the easiest and obvious thing to do. They're not going to go off and build their own infrastructure, they're just going to use the golden path. It talks about it being development focused, so there's an API there, or there's tooling to provision this stuff, not tickets, enabling, not gatekeeping. It talks about breadth. So this is like it's multi-tenancy, I suppose. There's multiple users of that golden path, that product you're building. It's not just a one-to-one relationship. That's going to be common functionality which is reusable across multiple stream-aligned teams. And then it talks about operations, which is essentially it's robust, it's managed, it's monitored, it's going to be reliable. Okay. Where it's really different though is it talks about hiring your engineering teams with a focus on collaboration and engagement with the stream-aligned teams. So we're not just hiring on great technical skills, although we still need those, but we're also hiring on aptitude and wanting to engage and collaborate, do that sweary wall problem, get that, do that out as part of the skills base, so they're wanting to collaborate. And what that means is we can effectively get rid of this wall and stop thinking about dev and ops like this and start using the pillars as a way to get rid of the fire and get the devs, effectively the platform and the stream-aligned teams, as it is, working together. And that's bubbled up as features through Golden Path's APIs, policies, which we'll have to write about using this stuff, as well as like observability tooling as well for like operational things. So if we're doing that, and what we're doing is we are getting this team to focus on this team and build products and software that they want to use and that they're going to use, and focusing on encouraging and collaborating with them to get them to do that. Right, so that's the end of the timeline. I don't think it would be good for me to go, even though I'm out of time, but I'm going to carry on because I am bigger than Ethan, even though he's from Barnsley. Is DevOps done? I was at the Agile meetup the other night and somebody said, you've not got a proper IT movement unless somebody's declared it dead at some point. So yeah, DevOps was, no it's not. Little quiz for you. Got 12 talk titles on the screen. I masked out like the tools and some of the technologies there. Some are from a DevOps days. Don't look at the slide deck. It's got the answers in it. Some are from a DevOps days a long time ago. Some of them from more recent. I look at this and I can't really tell whether they're from a long time ago or whether they're recent. Maybe one or two of them just because of what they're talking about. But if we look at where they're actually from, the top 6 are from the original DevOps days in Ghent in 2009, and the bottom ones are from DevOps Days Zurich last year. So 16 years apart, and it's the same problems. The technology is changing. I don't think DevOps is solved. So for me, if we got this problem, why is this still happening today? Well, I think one of the problems is we renamed our ops teams and ops engineers to DevOps teams and DevOps engineers and didn't optimize for quality in solving the problem. We just changed the names. Nothing new happened, surprise. And then when we've gone to platform engineering, we've changed the DevOps team name to platform engineering team, and we've renamed the DevOps engineers to platform engineers, and we've not changed our working ways. So funnily enough, nothing's happened. So this rebranding of teams hasn't worked. But if they adopt things like CAMs and lean and the 3 ways and product focus into these pillars and into their ways of working, then yes, it will work, not without trying, not without a lot of effort, but it's certainly going to solve that problem. And I've got 2 final thoughts to leave you with because I'm a little bit over. If we are collaborating with our engineers and our developers in the stream-aligned teams, what happens when we replace them with agents? Who do we interact with? Well, if you were paying attention this morning to Matthew, all of these Golden Paths, APIs, policies, all of this stuff are functions that AI loves. It likes APIs, it likes documentation, it likes policies, it likes interfacing with systems. So when Matthew says, and he posted this a few weeks ago when I first gave this talk, if you're designing for humans, you're also designing for AI. So problem solved there. Apart from what happens, and I haven't got an answer to this, when we replace the ops with agents as well. Is this fine? I don't know. Maybe I'll come back in 25 years and tell you. That's a conversation for the pub. Right, find me on LinkedIn. Scan the slides if you didn't the first time. Not really got time for questions, but thanks for listening, and nice to see you all. Cheers.